Welcome to Base Space, a crypto podcast. Base Space.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Base Space. This is a crypto podcast hosted by myself, the Crypto Mewtwo, Chase Coins, and Super High, and we focus on creating opportunities for growth, networking, and education in the crypto industry. Today we have the honor of having Flu, contributor at Harmony Protocol, and Devin Marty, ecosystem growth, also at Harmony. We're really excited to have you both on. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. How's it going?
It's going well, man. It's been a pretty busy day for me. What about you guys? How's your day going?
Dude, I've been driving around trying to do things, do them best as I can, man. But I wanted to congratulate you again on Chainlink.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, it's super crazy to go from being like a community member, right, for 2 years, and now I kind of being behind the scenes, seeing everything internally. It's kind of wild, you know.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm very familiar with how that works.
Yeah, it's crazy, but no, it's a super big honor. I'm super pumped to just be able to contribute more to the ecosystem, and obviously like everyone on the team is super passionate about just like Web3, cryptographic truth, just helping move the ecosystem forward. So it's just something I haven't really experienced working at Web2, type companies where everyone is just like grinding, man. Everyone's working super hard, and like when people say that they're actually gonna do something, they actually go through and and do it, man. Like I've worked at tons of companies where I would ask people to do something, or they would like say, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this task or whatever, and like you follow up with them and they just wouldn't even complete it. I don't know if you've experienced like that same thing.
No, man, never. I've never had any issues with like Web2 not really fulfilling a passion. Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean, and I very much have seen the same thing at like Harmony and the other places that I work. Is just like everyone's there for the same thing, which is to build like the space, and I feel like that sort of passion like really like rallies people around a cause.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so you guys are brand new on the show. It's pretty much tradition here now to hear everyone's crypto stories and like how you got into this space. Would love to maybe start with Flu, if you could kind of talk to us about like your first experiences with crypto and how you dove into the space. That'd be awesome.
Okay. So my first experiences with crypto were mining Bitcoin and Litecoin, back whenever you could do it with like CPU. And so that was a long time ago. And then I kind of like asked a friend once the difficulty started scaling up. I asked a friend for like $3,000, and I was like, hey man, I have to go to GPU mining. I really think this thing is going to be big. Please help me out, and I'll like split everything with you 50-50. And he was like, it's not real money, and go away. So I recently invited him to ETH Denver. That was a really fun experience because I didn't tell him anything about like what I had been doing for a while. So flexing on him a little bit. But anyway, after that, I came back to do like BSC shitcoining, and I started working like ghostwriting white papers for small like play to earn stuff, and then I started like doing suggestions and being like, oh guys, we're gonna wreck ourselves if we do this. And I kind of got ignored a lot of times because they're like, dude, we just hired you to ghostwrite a white paper, like go away. And so I was looking for more opportunities, and I kept on kind of grinding through those like low effort sort of things. And then I eventually found DeFi Kingdoms, and I worked for them for like the first 6 or 8 months. And then I kind of decided that decentralization was more important than money, and came over to Harmony Protocol as a whole. And I'm kind of helping the devs communicate with the core team, and I'm helping the core team learn what the devs really need from the core team, and the sort of technology focus that needs to exist rather than a focus on tertiary movements within the space, and kind of like pie in the sky sort of stuff. So that's basically my story. I I own a few projects. I work on a couple projects, and I'm very busy, but it's like literally the only thing I do. So I'm just 24/7 crypto. Um, I have like really weird schedule, so I do as much as I can, man. And then we have Devin, who's insanely more based than I am, and actually has a real focus in life. So I'll let him go next.
Yeah, thanks. No, appreciate it, guys, and it's really awesome to be here. Yeah, my journey is not maybe as what's the term you use? Degen?
Yeah, Jen.
Not as degen as flu for sure, but definitely I don't know. We're kind of all degens in the space at the end of the day, aren't we? And got started in the space. Had invested, but just saw it all kind of like a stock on Robinhood, right? For 2015 on. And 2018, I wrote a book on decentralized organizations. This is not like a DAO, right? This is just like what organizations exist out there that are decentralized. And I was obsessed with this idea of decentralization, what it means ethically, equitably, motivationally for employees, for organizations, how they operate, how they organize. Very cool stuff. And talked to a lot of great industry leaders. For me, it was like a learning out loud experience, right? Take all this great information in, frameworks that have existed from 1945 on till now, and put it all in one place for me to hopefully explain it to other people in a very simple way, which means hopefully, therefore, I also understand it myself. And with that, I discovered, wow, this is actually a whole lot more cool than I thought. There's a lot you can do with this. And there's also this technology that I've been kind of investing in for a while. I should probably actually look more into the tech side of that. So with 4 other people, 3 devs, 1 founder, and myself on the BizOps side, we got together and built a Ethereum-backed not-for-profit. And this was kind of the first. I'd been researching here and there. COVID hits. We're all inside, doing a lot of this is that. It's all DeFi, but it's not really DeFi. There's always a centralized component. So what we did is we built a protocol that was truly fully decentralized from a contract level. Right, the contract ran everything. The team did not hit any buttons at all. As soon as anyone put money into the contract on day 1 of this auction. And we got no team tokens. Like there's nothing like that, right? It was truly 100% capital efficiency is what we were shooting for. And that was pretty successful. We raised about $40 million in pre-sale on the Ethereum network, and it built it to a $500 million not-for-profit. It is hard to stick around, though, when there's no money in it for you. And so some of the team was definitely working on for-profit components. During that time, I was also just like, wow, let's meet this community more, and really jumped into events through the largest New Year's metaverse party ever. We had 6,000 people come through our crypto voxel plots over a 12-hour period, which was pretty fun. And then I did something for Harmony one day just because I like the guys there, namely Sam, who leads up the ecosystem growth and DAOs specifically. And he goes, "You want a job?" It's like, I got like 3, but yeah, give me a few days just to like see what this would entail. He goes, "You get to work with DAOs." And I was like, DeFi is going to change all of our lives, yeah, but like you can't buy happiness. And if I get to be there from at a very early time in like the infancy of DAOs and help build that, what they are, hopefully point them in the right direction, and use what brought me into the space to do it. That sounds a lot more fulfilling than just jumping around from here to here and doing different things that look cool. So ultimately said yes, and probably the best decision I've ever made career-wise in my life. So happy to be here, and thank you again for asking that question. I think that's a neat one. I definitely learned a little bit about Flu just sitting here listening to him talk. So appreciate you guys.
Yeah, 100%. We almost have like a catalog of everyone that we brought on the show, like their overall story of crypto, like how they got in. It's pretty cool to, put the pieces together. And I think one day, like we'll be able to catalog like hundreds of people, right? How they got into crypto, and it almost acts as like, this cool historical record that's now available, like permanently online for people to reference when we look back, even 5 years from now, which is usually it's probably going to feel like 100, right, in crypto time. So it's pretty cool. Devin, how long have you actually been working at Harmony then? Because it sounds like you've been with them for quite some time.
Oh no, I guess in crypto world a long time, but 5 months. So actually not too long of a time.
Yeah, we'll count that as like 25 years.
Exactly, right? So, no, it's been good. And Flu, you've been with Harmony on paper for what, a month now? 2 months now?
2 months or so.
2 months, yeah.
On like the real though, I've just kind of been an advocate of Harmony for a good long while
80 years.
Now. Yeah, 80 or 90 years in crypto time. I don't know. I was around before the DAOs were. That's the important part. I remember the DAO days. God,
good stuff. Yeah,
I like how
funny.
the one of the like core team members of Harmony has to be like, what's that word that you use? Degen? Like, okay, all right, guys.
It was a joke, man.
Y'all see why we need this ecosystem advocate role. Oh my god. Killing me. Clay is in the audience, Access is in the audience. Like, they see this, they hear this, they know. You are telling on yourself, sir.
Oops.
They're like, he's a normie.
Yeah.
Devin actually holds all of his crypto on Coinbase. I don't know if you guys know that.
Yep. Well, Coinbase and Crypto.com.
Oh yeah, of course.
I forget the GIF, but it's like that the actor with the skateboard over his shoulder, and he's like, "Hello there, like fellow kids." You know the GIF I'm talking about?
Yes.
That's got a Devin right now.
Yes, that's what I think of a lot whenever I look at DeFi Kingdoms, and it's like, oh, hello there, fellow degenerates, and it's like, yeah, it's just the DeFi Kingdoms team walking around. Now you can put like names and faces there too, which is great. But anyway.
Y'all cracking me up over here. Yeah, we have like a ton of listeners that are on like our YouTube channel and Spotify, and I would say that they're more like beginner level for the most part. It would be super helpful if one of you could kind of give like an overview of Harmony at like a very high level for those that might not even be familiar with the protocol or what it is.
Devin,
ecosystem advocate.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. You know what? Fine.
This is your test. I mean, you're being quizzed. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So Harmony is a layer 1 blockchain, just like Ethereum, except for the focus, rather than decentralization is like the main focus, and everything. The centralization is not the heaviest focus. Instead, it's like scalability and speed. So we have like really fast transactions, and we have really cheap transactions. And so being able to do a lot of transactions for a very low amount of like cost is really the strength of Harmony. And so it's not really a scaling layer for Ethereum, but like we have like interoperability with Ethereum in terms of like recognizing NFTs and everything. So a direction that I would say that we're going right now as a network is very much into the GameFi space. So we're looking for projects from Ethereum that want to scale their operations to be like, well, we want to do this, but it's way too many transactions to do here, or even on things like Polygon and everything. So we're trying to like very much target on that, and to have native projects that are building as well. And something that I'm hoping that we're going to be doing more of a focus on very soon is supporting our native developers in doing these new and novel crypto gaming projects. So that's what I'd say is like the overall thing is like it's the network for crypto gaming, and then it's also the network for just fast and cheap transactions in DeFi. So you can be doing things like those auto compounding strategies and everything without having to kind of pay more than it's worth. But I think Devin has a little bit more, because I'm completely blanking on this question. and I feel awful. So there you go, Devin.
You're fired. I don't have that capability. But no, Flu's spot on with a lot of it, right? Scalability is the main thing. Speed is a huge thing. Something that I think needs to be pointed out as well, and is kind of relevant to where the market's headed right now, with GameFi and games. Obviously, DeFi Kingdoms was at one point the largest game in all of GameFi, even bigger than Axie Infinity, if I'm not mistaken. Flu, fact check me.
No, it was true from certain points of view.
Yeah.
One thing that I would say is that like they count volume
Yes.
in the DEX, it was kind of a big advantage that they had over Axie for a long time before that spun up. So, but yeah, no, on a lot of levels, daily users, daily transactions, everything like that, it was bigger than Axie.
So yeah, Flu, exactly. The daily transaction is the big part, right? You have Harmony supporting 2 to 4 million transactions a day. That is not something that other chains can do, right? When you have games that require 8, 10, 12, 100 transactions to happen, for something to occur, and keeping that cost, like your customer or your community, their wallets in mind, so they don't go bankrupt, that is definitely really important to consider. And when you look at the other chains out there, it seems that Harmony is really place themselves in a very advantageous position to be the game chain, right? And if you know anything about how Harmony also works in terms of like architecture wise, with shards, so sharded proof of stake is the terminology. It's essentially just adding more lanes to the highway, right, for throughput. So it's not just one pipeline for transactions to go through, and that's infinitely scalable, right? Vertically, so, or horizontally, sorry. So when you have, and this is coming out soon at the end of May, I believe, a entire shard or network, an entire blockchain dedicated to games, right? And with DeFi Kingdoms, jumping back to them, they were running on the main shard, and I think only 20% of the volume, and that's tons and tons of transactions that no other chain could match. So if we're talking about current market, like why is this chain useful? I think we're talking, games are a big part of it, right? There's also other stuff we do with zero knowledge stuff, but that's 2 steps away. That's in the future, but it's super important stuff to start on already, and all the fundamental tech of making this continue to work, run, and have that infrastructure that just makes it easy for everyone, because there's obviously pain points everywhere in DeFi and blockchain, Web3, all of it, and the pain points that we have are, I don't think, too difficult to fix, manage, and improve on, if we're going to have a chain that, ultimately ends up being the gaming chain, matched with everything else that you need to support a game chain, which is substantial DeFi, substantial NFT marketplaces, security, wallets, all that kind of stuff. So
you you touched on a lot there, Devin, and I want to unpack a lot of that. I do want to circle back to like the pain points, but you touched on sharding, and that was one thing I wanted to ask about. Could you kind of dive into? I know you guys are a little bit newer, so I don't know how level or how deep of a technical level you guys can go, but just from like a conceptual level, could you explain what the secure random state sharding is, and how is that a different approach versus other forms of sharding?
All right, I'm out. I'll see you later, guys. This has been a really fun night. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Crypto Media Chase. Thank you, everyone. No, that's a little bit above my head. What I would say though is that like the cross sharding is nowhere near like ready for the prime time. It's something it's going to have to be developed, and it's something that's been promised for a long time. And Devin, I think that we've got some like actual stuff that's coming out on cross sharding. Do you know anything about that yet?
Yeah, I don't think anything I want to promise publicly, or even have the capability to promise publicly, but it is probably a few quarters away. I'm going to say a safe 5 quarters, but it's probably less than that. And that what that is just like, okay, you have essentially 2 blockchains. How do you get them, just like bridge, right? But how do you get those two shards to not only bridge things but also communicate live, right? And do that securely with a random, like you talked about, with a randomness function in there, so that it can't be gamed or known what that information is. So there's no arbitrage. It's a really hard problem, and there are no current. Well, there are small cases here and there that aren't full blockchains, right? But there's theories of how to do it in different ways. But there's really no current fully operational cross-chain or cross-shard information communicating chain that exists, and it's a really important function. Function as of the blockchain. But you asked about, what did you ask about, VRF?
No, just the secure random state sharding.
Secure random state sharding, yeah.
But that is like a good segue, because I think you guys, I was diving through your docs, and I think you guys do have a way to generate randomness like on chain, I believe.
Yes.
It's broken.
Yeah, it's a bit. It could be better, but the fact of the matter is, though, it exists.
You know what would help, Devin?
What's
is
up?
if Chainlink supported
Yes.
the VRF on.
Yeah. I was gonna say, have you guys like thought about pursuing Chainlink, or is that like a core strategy for Harmony as a protocol to have that in house?
So, I believe there is the VRF that is built into the algorithm of the network, right? I do know that there is some talk with Chainlink. I'm not up to date on what that means for VRF. And sorry for everyone in the audience, we're boring with talking about verifiable random functions, but it is really important. It's something Ethereum doesn't have, right? The ability to provably create something that is random on chain, right? For games, massively important. For like even an NFT mint, if you want to have the metadata randomized, right now you have to hold that in an off-chain server, it's centralized to an extent. People can mess with the metadata. There's just things that are not fully trustless about that. But if you have a VRF that's working as it should, and it's verifiable, which is the issue with Harmony's at the moment, it's not truly verifiable. There are things that there just need to be essentially more validators doing certain things for it to be truly verifiable, and that random function obviously relies on that. So it is built in, it is baked in. It will be good someday, but just at this point, it's not.
It's a weakness currently.
Yeah.
But the other thing with that is that what Devin mentioned with the being able to mess with the metadata because it's not verifiable on chain is really important, because a lot of times that's what you see with these projects, that you'll see like the projects have like bought up all of their like super rare stuff themselves before the mint, or like before the reveal happens. And sometimes that's cases like that. Sometimes it's just like, well, they just assigned it themselves so they know. But like that's things that can happen, or that instead of the project buying it up themselves, you'll have like some like highly technical user that has figured that stuff out, and they'll go out and like snipe those unrevealed items. So you'll see like a wallet that has like 3 purchases, and it's all at like floor for like unrevealed mints, and then they'll all be revealed, and you'll be like, okay, these are the 3 rarest things in the collection. Like, okay, that's obviously not okay. And things like that are what that VRF is attempting to avoid.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I'm kind of nerd out on the infrastructure middleware stuff that is boring backend services that people don't really think about until there's actually really cool services that you can't really even create unless you have that type of service offering. So I'll just put myself on mute there. But you did touch, I know you guys talked a lot about being the GameFi center, but I think also like a big part of your guys' strategy is kind of being, which is really interesting, is like you guys like really kind of view like a multi-chain future, if I'm not mistaken. I think you guys have like a pretty good like bridging process set up between BNB, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Can you guys kind of expand on that?
Yeah, I love our bridges. I'm pretty tight with a bunch of different bridges, honestly. Synapse and multi-chain and Axelar and many others. Printer Financial is a good example, but like a lot of bridges love to be on Harmony because like we have it in one of our original documents as like the bridge to other blockchains. But I think that more so than just like the technical side of like bridging to other blockchains, what I like to focus on with that is that literally I want to support other chains. I don't want to be like any specific network that is going to remain unnamed that's just like, oh well, we're going to reign supreme in the end, nothing else needs to exist, everything can be done under our roof. It's
Dogecoin,
what?
right? Am I
No,
am I
no, no,
DGen yet?
no flooding my bags, please.
Bro, way worse than that one. But yeah, no, I want to work with Phantom. I want to work with Aurora. I mean, like my PFP right now even is from Phantom, right? And I want to work with Aurora. I want to work with Metis. I want to work with all of those other up and coming blockchains. I want to work with Ethereum. Like I want to work with all of these different chains to like build something together. Like everything has its different like niche, and like so people like these different chains for different reasons. It's not the same for everyone. A lot of people like Aurora because you pay your gas fees in ETH, but then you have people like, well, then what's the good of the Aurora token? And like these are valid complaints, blah blah blah. But like everything has its own flavor, its own style. Like Terra is basically like the centralized spot for everyone to do their banking, no matter what chain you're on other than Terra. Like the banking chain, right? This is the GameFi chain. We got Ethereum that's like really the proof of, or sorry, the storage of value because of the deepest liquidity and the highest kind of population for NFT
Yeah.
collectors and everything.
It's also becoming kind of like a fulfillment layer too, with all these layer twos, right? That are, you don't want to use Ethereum because the network fees and this, it's kind of slower compared to L2s. But when we live in an L2 future, does Ethereum just become this fulfillment layer that services all those L2s? Like the infrastructure of the entire, half of the market?
Right. Something that I think is really cool is like being able to, like as I mentioned earlier, like store your expensive NFTs, your expensive assets, because that's what really NFTs are and should be going forward. So your most expensive assets are going to be stored on Ethereum, where you have like the biggest and best places to trade those NFTs, and you have the deepest liquidity for them and everything. But then just read them from other chains, and Harmony's included in that, and then you can just kind of like verify that trustlessly through those features, through the I tokens in Harmony's case, and actually like unlock features and everything in those apps that you want to use just based on the ownership of that NFT.
Yeah, that's that's super interesting, and also like kind of talking about the various design choices and the various chains. You guys have a unique way of staking. I know you talked about Roar and the use case of their token. You guys use a effective proof of stake. Could you kind of talk about that and the thought process behind that design, if you guys can? I know once again maybe that is like a little bit we're getting too in the weeds, but I thought that was like really interesting as I was diving through your docs.
Did you say we use effective proof of stake?
Yeah, he's asking about like the design and the principles behind the effective proof of stake system. If you could speak to that.
Yeah,
Oh,
and if you guys can, no worries if you can't. But I thought that was interesting because if I remember right, it's something like it trends to the median number of staked.
yeah, for sure.
For Harmony.
Yeah, so you have generally this bell curve that exists. I think this fundamentally goes back to a belief that is core to Stephen Say, who is the founder of Harmony. He co-wrote the paper with Hawk One on universal basic income. Now they're terming it decentralized basic income, DBI. There exists this curve, bell curve. We all know bell curve, right? But when it comes to wealth distribution, that follows it as well. You have a very small amount of people down here who are very, very impoverished, small amount of people up here who are very, very wealthy. and then a lot of people in the middle, right? The biggest being that main middle. And what this effective proof of stake or delegated proof of stake is also another term that's loosely used. It's this mechanism that it limits how much of a certain. So there's validators also. Sorry, let's dumb it down all the way to when I was learning about this. Oh, what's a validator? Okay, think of them like a senator, right? And you delegate your tokens voting power to them in a way, right? You keep custody over your tokens, but those validators are given power to support the network, secure the network, right? Based on how many tokens are coming to them. And they also get paid by the network. Well, if they're getting paid by the network, one person's going to try and get everyone on their thing, and they'll be making tons of money, and they'll also be the central point of security, which is not decentralized. Okay, cool. So as more and more money funnels into a validator, there is a number, an H number, right? An asymptotic line that when they reach that, or attempt to reach that, the rewards get less and less for them, right? And so it becomes more beneficial to be one of these smaller validators, right? Who are just spinning up, and it's redistributing that wealth in a way that's pushing people on the bell curve back to the middle, right? And so you're essentially all you have is this giant middle area of a bell curve, and no small minority down here, and no small minority up at the top, right? Does it end up working 100% of the time? With a validator network, I think as small as Harmony's, which is, it's still substantial and secure, but
we claim it's 900, but it's 900 slots, right? So like
correct.
my validator, for example, has like 2 of those slots because of the thing that you were talking about. So because I was coming up to the top of that bell curve, I had to add another key
Exactly.
to like have that allocation again. So like my effective bid has to be split between those keys essentially. Actually, I might be unelected at this point.
Well, so that's another thing. Yeah, there's election, like you might just be kicked off by the other validators. That's always possible. A civil attack of some kind. And then also, big validators can just spin up new keys and get that boost of rewards right at the bottom. So it just becomes the same people spinning up nodes. Ultimately, it's still securing the network, but it's not too centralized. You're not going to be able to spin up 900 validators yourself, but it's still an issue at this point, right? Which as the network grows and there are more validators, it becomes less of an issue, but it still is. Again, I won't call it an issue. It's just it's the market doing what the market will do, and it's helping the network. At the end of the day, there's an incentive to spin up more validators, and it's founded in a lot of math, right, and a lot of game theory understanding of how people work, how markets work, and how security, obviously, at the end of the day, works.
Yeah, thank you for diving into that. You had mentioned something about the slot. There's 900 slots. Could you expand on what you mean by that? That's not just a max cap of 900 validators, right?
Right, it's really like 900 like keys essentially that are like within the election, like within the elected thing. Actually, honestly, oh god, I know that there's Clay. Can you send a heart if you're familiar with this topic? Because like you've been a validator, I think, for a long time, haven't you? If Clay is listening, is he gonna save me? Clay, are you gonna save? Okay, cool. You're gonna speak now. Okay, can you get Clay up here, Crypto?
Yeah, I invited him.
Cool. This guy's a validator on the network. He's been around for a long time. He's a decent person most of the time. Clay, go for it, bro.
I'm actually a terrible person, and I'm not a validator.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Move him back down.
Thanks, Clay.
No,
Easy.
no, but what exactly is the question about the slots?
I'm having difficulty kind of like explaining, I guess, to his question directly. Chase, can you ask it again because I'm absolutely stupid today?
Yeah, you had just mentioned, or I think it was you, Flu, about there being 900 slots. I just want to get a better understanding of what exactly you meant by there being
Oh,
900 slots when it comes to
okay.
validators.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. That's an effective. That's like what you're talking about with like the effective proof of stake and the bell curve, because it scales the rewards to fit within that middle of the bell curve. Once you have like, I think it's like 5 or 6 million ones staked with your validator, you really need to spin up another like key, which takes up another slot in order to like put those within its own like kind of section to remain within that bell curve to make sure that your rewards are still high, right? So you're acting as two different validator slots on there, but you've got, the big ones that have like 100 different slots, sort of stuff. So it's really just one person that's running this enormous validator, but they act as if there's like multiple things, so they have like more voting power because they have 19 different ones with 5 million in each one of those slots or keys. And Devin could probably speak more to that.
Yeah, well, I know, and I'll refer to Crypto Clay as well. This I think there are 1,000 of these. I believe they're called BLS keys. Nine. Can
He
you
rugged.
hear me?
He
Oh,
want to
am
answer.
I here still?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you're
back.
good.
Cool.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, so 900 held by the community, and I think there's this max limit as well that you can only have 13 keys maximum, and you have to bid for these slots with elections, and but this is something I refer to Crypto Clay if you know more on.
Well, there's an auto bidding like that happens that pretty much every node uses because of one specific person who like wrote this thing called Easy Node, and then there was an auto bidding solution after that, and pretty much everyone uses it. But what it makes it do is it, just like you're talking about the game theory, it makes us all stick to this standard thing of like, okay, well, once we get to this point, we have to add another key. But really, like, this is a topic for like one of the people from like Validator DAO. I think that like Hank the Crank would be really good for this. I could set up another space though for you and like invite two of the people that you really need to speak to. So one for like the cross sharding thing, we'd want to go with one of the architects of that system, and then we'd probably invite a couple people from Validator DAO and like really dive in to like sort of the things that you're interested for the validator section. I'm not an expert on either one of those things, so, and I don't think that Devin played the expert once on TV, but he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express and then he forgot what he was talking about. So
Yeah,
There's a garden inn. Okay, sorry.
Patrick would be the best guy to talk to. He's the one who created Easy Node. But yeah, BLS keys are basically just the it's what is represented to sign the blocks with. So you have to create a BLS key when spinning up a validator for the first time, but the more stake you actually get on that validator node, the more BLS keys you're going to want so that you can spread out that stake across separate keys, uh, just so that you can keep the network as decentralized as possible.
but it's not truly decentralized though, and I think that's probably the issue, is that like it's still the same person running those different like BLS keys. So I think that's
Yeah,
kind of
true. We want as many validators as possible and not necessarily as many BLS keys as possible.
right. So that's something that does need to be worked on, and that's what we were kind of talking before, especially Devin. But it's the crazy sort of thing is that like you look at like how many Bitcoin full nodes there are, and they're like million or whatever. Like it's the most decentralized, the most like secure. Like it's insanely decentralized, and like you can't get to that point overnight. And it's something that is going to be a challenge for pretty much any of these places. But the thing that I would focus on for that is that Harmony really has a strength in this area because of the low cost to entry for starting a validator. So, like Phantom, the cost is pretty high still. It's like 50,000 Phantom or whatever. And I think that was actually like a reduction over what it had been before with 100,000. And so you've got to be like, okay, well, I want to put $40,000 into this, and that's how I need to do. Avalanche is hugely centralized because the only people that can do that are if you have like 2,000 AVAX, and that's $200,000, $300,000, and then you have like Harmony, which okay, I want to start a validator. The self stake minimum is only 10,001. So that's like 3 grand. Or actually, no, it's not even 3 grand anymore. It's like 1.6 grand or points. Like I don't know. I don't know how much it is. I can't. I don't even want to think about that right now. It's been dipping for a while. Okay, I've been catching this falling knife every day, Chase. All right, my hands, they're cut, they're
Calloused.
bleeding.
They're
Oh,
stronger.
Hands can be cut if they're made of diamond flu.
that's right, baby. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Devin, this on you. I'm gonna go cry about my bags. I'll be right back.
I'll throw
I
it to
did.
Chase to change it or
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
going.
I
Yeah.
did have another question I wanted to circle back to because you had talked about pain points, and I did. You guys had talked about DeFi Kingdom. I remember that the amount, I guess it was the amount of transactions that were occurring was kind of over congesting the network. Can you guys, I was just curious, like from like a
Yeah.
technical perspective, like what exactly was occurring? Like what was going wrong in that situation when DFK was just going like absolutely insane and everyone was trying to get over onto Harmony to get involved in that ecosystem?
So a lot of those transactions were not actually directly from DeFi Kingdoms. A lot of those transactions were tangential to DeFi Kingdoms because people were running their bots for the tavern and trying to like snipe heroes constantly. So they were putting in these like transactions to try to spam these things to make sure that they got like illegitimately listed heroes, like people who tried to hire out their heroes for like 2 Joule and then ended up like listing their hero for 2 Joule and stuff like that. And so they would consistently like spam the crap out of the tavern. And that was like I think like 80% of the traffic, Devin. You can speak better to that.
Not sure, but yeah, it's something like that.
Okay, so the issue is more is like people botting and trying to
Yeah.
take advantage of. So like,
Yeah.
what is the solution there? Was it just they could bot because the transaction fees were just so cheap that economically it was viable for
Yes.
them to do that?
Yeah, because I mean, it's not the point of gas fees, but gas fees also are spam resistant, like a spam resistant mechanism, right? If you don't want something to happen, like with Twitter, Elon's talking about this right now. Having a small fee that you have to pay to have a Twitter account that will effectively get rid of all the Twitter bot accounts that are out there, because it would be hard for these, companies, people. I don't know who's spinning up these bot accounts, but it would be more economically. It would not make sense for them to do it, right? In every case. And so when you have low gas fees on Harmony, yeah, of course this is going to be like something that happens. But again, we can scale, and this is not a problem, right? It is a problem in the short term, but that's why we're spinning up a whole game shard so that people can build their games. And when it's unrestricted building, right? It's decentralized, so anyone can build anything on this new shard. But it will be promoted as, hey, this is where the games are, and optimized for that, right? In small different ways. Are bots going to be eliminated from that? No. But at least it will take away any kind of strain on network, RPC, anything from the, call it Lightning Shard, the main shard where people do their day-to-day stuff. And if that gets clogged, shard 2, shard 3, shard 4, just keep building it out.
Yeah, I'm actually curious, kind of switching gears a little bit to talk about. I know you guys talked about GameFi, but just like currently, what are you guys seeing like on the ground in terms of builders? Like, what's the appetite for the services and what solutions are people kind of developing right now that you're kind of seeing people gravitate towards?
We need more DeFi on the space, right? And this is something that I'm reminded of every day whenever I go over to Luna, or I go over to Phantom, or whatever, and like I have all of these options available to me for different things that I could do with my assets, and Like I find that to be like one of the most fun games of all time. Is just like the inherent like min maxing of like how to make money in a secure way while like minimizing risk or doing like delta neutral positions and like all of this different stuff that like right now on Harmony it's really limited. It's really limited. And so Devin's gonna fix it. Here you go. Here you go. He's gonna tell you how he's gonna do that. Devin, tell us how you're gonna do it, man. Genius.
Fix all everything.
Yes, just fix Harmony. Yes, sir.
So
Fix Harmony, DeFi, 2 sentences or less. Go.
fix Harmony and DeFi in 2 sentences or less. Allocate more funds to DeFi porting.
Wow. Thank you. Everyone give him a hand. Thank you. That was
No.
beautiful.
Yeah, for real. How do you do that? I think, and this is a little contentious in the Harmony community at this moment, but there's a lot of discussion around it on other chains. There's a Stanford, I'll use the term here. There's a Stanford DAO convention just this past week where they actually discussed something very similar. Having and I want to be very careful with this term DAO, right? Because it's becoming very clear that there are two things going on. There are decentralized autonomous organizations, companies that utilize smart contracts to be efficient, and there are, let's call them on-chain communities, right? Groups of people who get together with missions in mind, but maybe no self-sustainable product, service, protocol, right? And so maybe focusing a lot more in on the protocol DAOs, right? And I'm not going to say these are good or bad DAOs. You can judge for yourself. But like the Uniswap DAOs, the Aave DAOs, the DAOs that are built around protocols that do things, right, and have a source of income, and then also add value to a chain and contribute a lot to, mainly here we're talking DeFi, right, and the liquidity issues that chains have when they're growing, and it really, I think, just comes down to, it doesn't come down to this. This is a big part of it, though. We'll be focusing on these DAOs that are DAOs, right? That are more than just communities, that are built around protocols that are DeFi, right? For instance, one on Harmony, Liquidity DAO, is a combination of Harmony and Hummingbot. If you've heard of Hummingbot, it's like I won't say they're trying to take down Citadel, but it's essentially like that, right? Citadel is, for those you don't know, one of the major liquidity providers for the world, right? The NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, I should say, uses Citadel to move liquidity, or store liquidity, I should say, as well. If Citadel one day didn't want to, they could just not support the New York Stock Exchange anymore. And that would be, a massive blow. But and that controls obviously much of the banking system. You can tell if they can shut down the New York Stock Exchange. So that's kind of what is the idea behind Hummingbot, and there's a lot more to Hummingbot, but they started a liquidity DAO on Harmony, and the whole purpose is to build, approach, do these bounties that will either port things over, because it's so easy to port things from Ethereum to Harmony. Get these products over and then bring with it, though, liquidity, right? What incentive models do you set up? So having DAOs that are also very technical and built around technical problems like liquidity and how you move that around, how you get people to use these DeFi products, right? So not just the protocols, but the use of the protocols is also a really important component of building out this DeFi ecosystem and bolstering it on Harmony. Sorry if that was wordy.
No, I mean, I agree that there's like so many different interesting use cases that DAOs could serve purposes in.
DAOs that do something needs to be the next tagline. I think that Clay would be really a big fan of that. Clay, how do you feel about DAOs that do something?
I actually prefer DAOs that don't do anything at all and just take money out of my pocket.
Well, then you should actually be already good then. You should be really happy with
Yeah, I'm super pumped with what
Yeah.
the Harmony Foundation has done over the past few months with their funding.
You know, and I will say this is that it's a bit, and I will strike back against the fudders on this one, because like it's a bit of a false flag on that one, because you look at the scale of the issue and like the amount of one that's been spent on this, and yes, a lot of them are wastes of money, but you look at like the greater scheme of things as far as like what price impact has that had, it's a very limited issue. Was it an issue that should have ever existed in the first place? No. But is it as big of a thing as people are saying, like claiming that millions of dollars are being spent on this? No. Also no. That's not how it is. And like I would love to see like a report from Harmony that actually backs this up and like shows like, okay, well this is what we've done, this is how much is went to any DAO. This is not trying to like zero anything out or like say, okay, well yeah, we wasted money on you and you. You know, like that's not what I'm asking, but like putting like a scale and a name to the problem whenever you've got like other apps on chain that have caused greater sell pressure in other ways, and that's a different story. But they like I just want to see it kind of justified on paper. I think would be really great.
Yeah, for sure. That's something I know Sam's putting together, because he's been a huge proponent of that. Like, guys, we've given out, like, promised $4 million to, DAOs that hit certain tranches. We're not just giving out money, right? It comes in stages and tranches. You have to hit certain metrics and stuff. It's not. And of that, I think only $1 million has actually gone out of the $50 million ecosystem fund, which I'm a big fan of pulling back on, actually. But we're gonna have to talk about that here. And yeah, $1 million of one out over 5 months now to DAOs that are probably spending them to do things. And also go to the VC world. The amount of projects you invest in, you don't expect them all to win, right? It's diversifying your. And I also have to state that these are not investments; these are grants for just legal consideration, right? We were not giving investments to or providing investment in these DAOs. These were grants. And we're hoping that one of these DAOs takes off, right? And we bootstrap them in a way that they can now be successful on Harmony, right? And bring attention to Harmony, bring their community to Harmony, whatever they. But did I get rugged again?
Yeah, you got rugged a little
There
bit.
we go.
One thing that I'll say on that though is that like the investment piece is really important, not just for DAOs, but like for things in general. Like we've got actually Clay here is gonna help me do this. Devin, you need to take. I'm gonna say this right now on this thing
Do
that's
it.
being recorded. It's gonna be a podcast. Sam Harrison, you need to answer my like messages on Telegram. Like I don't know what is wrong with you. You are my boss. You need to pick up your phone and actually read these things within like a good period of time. Like you are my direct report.
He's your
And like
mentor. He's your
sometimes
mentor.
I've got really important things to tell you about, like this one gaming company that Crypto Clay is aware of, and that like we can't even get attention to because that's what we need investment in. And like got absolutely insane partnerships that I can't even. Clay, can I say who they're
Dude,
partnered with?
yes, please do. The more people hear about this, I think, because I'm going to be real for a second. I've seen a couple of like quote unquote gaming partnerships that Harmony has signed over the past month, and they're complete dog shit. Like just absolute dog shit. We need somebody like Versus on Harmony that can bring real attention to the blockchain and bring in new eyes. That's what we need. We
And
don't need any of these.
Clay, what's the partnership that they have with like exclusive streaming rights?
So they are partnered. They're official partners of EA, Electronic Arts. They're official partners of Ubisoft, and they're official partners of Riot Games. They hosted ALGS this year, which is the largest Apex Legends tournament in the world. They hosted it on their Twitch account as a company, and EA asked them to do that. Like, so their partnerships with these large gaming corporations are a big deal, and we absolutely need to be looking at guys like these that have something incredibly unique to add to the blockchain, because they're completely web 2 right now, but they're looking to break into web 3.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I've been saying for a bit, is that like there's so many resources, and right now like we're allowing everybody to kind of like vampire attack us from all sides. Like I could spin up like six different people in my hometown and be like, hey, here's your mission, here's your goal, here's how you say it, here's how you do it. And like there are certain people in the community that like they're tracking down and like looking at like there's potential that this has already happened because of the way that our grants are set up, and because of the limited sort of like due diligence that we sometimes do on some of the people. Is there's concerns that like um that there's a central player in some of these that's just like, oh well, this is a grant, I don't really have any accountability, I can go in here with like different real life identities, and it's just like, what's the worst case scenario? If I don't deliver, I don't deliver. And then they just take the money and they go, they get out. So like it's unfortunate, but it is a thing that I do believe is happening at some extent, because like speaking of from a security perspective, um, it's what I would do as a bad actor. If I were a bad actor, I would spin up like a real life DAO, for lack of a better word, like a hackerspace sort of group or whatever, that's just like, all right, guys, let's sit down, let's write out all of these different proposals. It's $10,000 each, easy stuff. Let's go home, right? And then like split everything, and then deuce out. And that unfortunately seems to be what certain people have done. And I'm sure that the scale of the issue is very small, but the fact that it's happening at all is something that's completely preventable. And there needs to be like some massive changes to that. So that's I would say a big pain point. But in terms of like overall, I wouldn't say that it's a huge pain point. The pain points more so are things like RPC issues, which I mean we've now dealt with kind of in a decentralized way, because everyone and their mom runs an RPC on Harmony at this point. So you got like FoxSwap and FuzzFi and Sonic and I don't know who else that's running a RPC at this point. And like they've done a fantastic job of solving that problem. But if you go on Harmony's own RPC, you cannot get anything done at certain points of the day. And so like that sort of stuff is something that's embarrassing for us as a chain, because we publish these docs and we say, okay, this is how you spin up the custom RPC here, and that custom RPC is not great. So then you have to go into a Discord, or you have to find a thread on Twitter, or you have to do all of these extra steps that make it kind of a shitty first user experience.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate you guys coming on and being so transparent about the current state of the network, and your overall goals. I think it's definitely one of the more transparent episodes we've had on the show. So I just want to thank you guys for being that way. And I actually have a hard stop, so I need to wrap it up here. But Devin, Flu, is there, like, plug your socials? Like, where can people follow Harmony? Where should people go to learn more?
Just follow Flu and you'll get all the info you want, or don't want, but need, or don't need. It's just it's gonna be fun.
But you get.
But yeah, no.
I've never felt so attacked and supported at the same time.
Oh man, no, it's awesome working with you, and the Harmony team is truly, honestly, even if sometimes they don't respond to our telegrams, I'll text Sam right now. They are awesome, the best people I've ever worked with, and so like people focused, right? Human focused, making this a global. I won't even say currency or network or whatever, just bringing us all together as people, to have things like they should be, right? Where everyone's treated like a human, and working alongside these people. A lot of them, coming from non-profit spaces. So it is that kind of mentality already. But working with them, just you learn every day how to become a better person. And then you have Flu, who teaches me a lot about other things that don't have to do with becoming a better person, but maybe
Sometimes
they
you don't
do.
sometimes you don't need to become a better person. You just need to become better at being the person that you already are.
There
And
we
like
go.
a lot of times that just involves standing up for the things that you already believe in, and that you're already and Clay is a good example of that. Like standing up for the things that you definitely believe in, but like maybe you could assert yourself a little more on. And I think that a lot of times we as people, and I'm guilty of this at times as well, we prioritize comfort and like making people comfortable and making them like us rather than like hitting them with hard facts or hard truths. And I think that over time we should just be more ourselves and aggressively more ourselves, because like we only get one chance to like do half of the stuff that we do in life. And so that was a really complicated way of saying YOLO. However, as far as like plugging my socials for the people that are on the podcast and YouTube and everything, my Twitter is dfinalfantasy, which I do have to shout out the team at DeFi Kingdoms for, because they were joking around very early on that they were going to rename DeFi Kingdoms into D Final Fantasy because of the humor of it. And I was like, well, if you guys don't, I'm going to steal it. And they didn't, so I stole it. So D Final Fantasy on Twitter. And then you can also follow Devin at Marty Devin. So this is the dude that quite literally wrote the book on DAOs. And he also has another book called Sociogenesis that is an art book, photography book, that's actually sponsored by Leica. Isn't that right, Devin?
Leica Academy, helped me put that together. Brilliant graphics as well. And yeah, it's discussing and analyzing decentralization through photography. Challenge I got from one of my mentors, who's a brilliant photographer, still on Vogue for a number of years, and he shoots for Leica as well. So, no, thank you, Flu, for shouting that out.
Yeah, and please someone mint some of them, because I've minted a lot of them, and y'all need to pump my bags. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Awesome, guys.
We'll wrap it up there. Stay based, everyone, and have a good night or good morning wherever you're at.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
of course.
Chase.
Peace. Thank you, guys.
Peace.
Peace out.
Based space.